Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we're reviewing The Time Monster Part 3. And I think this is the weakest one so far. This is my first time watching all of The Time Monster, and I know it's the first time I've seen episode 3. I think it's the weakest one. This episode feels like a lot of filler. There's a lot of just, man, this is a six-parter. We need to stretch it out. And this episode feels like a lot of that. First off, Kronos looks terrible. It's not realized well. And I mean, we all know that. I've seen pictures of Kronos before. I know it's not a good costume, but it needs to be stated for the record, Kronos is not realized well at all. It's a little hard to take it seriously. Now, the scene when he first kind of emerges, there's some cool special effects work going on right there, but the actual realization of the character in the costume, not good. Got to point that out. The scene when the doctor MacGyvers the thing together with the corkscrews and the forks. My willing suspension is hanging on the edge of a cliff going, I can't hold on! I can't hold on! I'm slipping! Oh, that's ridiculously silly. The fact that he cobbles that thing together with it's like what you stereotypically remember MacGyver being. Just hand him a rubber band and a matchbook and I have a hard time taking that seriously. Now, obviously, that scene is there to fill time because it doesn't really lead to anything. He delays the doctor briefly, not for long. Now, I do like the fact that the doctor mentions that him and the master used to do that to each other when they were in school together just to mess up each other's time experiments. That's kind of funny. I love when we get a little background lore on them, as friends back in their school day. That was nice. It was a nice little comment. And I do love the fact the master immediately knew what was up. Like, that infernal bungling, meddling. I did like that, the annoyance on the master's face. He turns that knob with that annoyed look, which overloads the doctor's thing. That is kind of funny. I mean, it doesn't need to be there. It's obviously there for time. If you were doing an omnibus of the Time Monster, you could cut that right out. But it was kind of funny. But yeah, the way they realized it with the corkscrew and the forks. I can build a time manipulation thing. Get me a cork. Get me some forks. Get me either John Pertwee or Richard Dean Anderson. We got this. The location work continues to impress. I mean, the restoration, as I mentioned before, looks phenomenal. Like, absolutely phenomenal. Kudos to the Blu-ray team. The location work continues to impress because it doesn't look very grainy. Like, you swear they use the outside cameras that they used later in the 80s, or like they used for Sontaran Experiment. Because there's not a lot of grain here. It looks really good. Like, did some of the film elements survive? I don't think so, but did they? It looks really impressive. Now, in a couple scenes, like when the unit convoy first gets ambushed, the colors look a little bland there in the location work. They're a little blander. But in most of the other location scenes, the colors continue to pop like they did in episode 2. The cliffhanger was fine. I mean, we know the convoy didn't get blown up, or at least we know people didn't get hurt, because we know. But it's still a nice little cliffhanger. I liked it. I like the fact that the female scientist they very much, at least thus far, toned down that men thing that was going on in part 1 that was annoying me when she was just, men. That was so annoying. They seem to have toned that down. Maybe just in story she realizes, hey, this doctor character kind of knows what's going on. Maybe I should listen to it. But I do like the fact they've scaled back on that, at least thus far. And I am glad the male scientist is young again, that kind of reverted back. Although since then they really haven't had much to do. They're just kind of there. And I do hope they get to play a little more part in the story. A lot of episode 3 does feel like filler. I mean, we did find out the master can kind of manipulate time a little bit and bring other people from different points in time in. Like the guy on horseback with the lance from medieval times, King Arthur and all. Which I was sitting there going, wait, what? But it's interesting to learn he can do that. Although him watching the little thing on his wrist or the rotoscoping there with the image looks terrible. Terrible. I mean, it's classic Who, but it looks terrible. Yeah, episode 3 was all right. I kept pausing. Unlike the first two, where I didn't really stop much when I was watching them, I was taking breaks in part 3 Of course, a lot of that was uploading parts 1 and 2 to YouTube. But yeah, I didn't find episode 3 as interesting. It wasn't, I'm not saying it's bad. It just wasn't as interesting. It did feel more like a filler episode. So still enjoying the story thus far, but my least favorite episode of the 3, now that I'm halfway through it. So, The Time Monster Part 3, what do you think of it? Comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button. That helps me out, and I certainly appreciate it. My goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers in 2023, and I'm almost to 900 as I record this. So I certainly appreciate each and every one of you. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me that way. There's a link to that down in the description below. All sorts of little early access and exclusive videos that my patrons get. If you want to check that out, I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Unknown289, Colin Coney, Stephen Crane, and Dr. Finn Perkins. I appreciate your support as I do the support of all of my patrons. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, and a link to my Amazon wish list with Doctor Who and non-Doctor Who stuff on there that I'm interested in if you want to check that out. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.